Stop running your easy days too fast. It's something I talk about all the time on the channel, and I talk about all the time with athletes. And so I wanted to do a little bit of a different video today, just kind of talking about it. If you're new here, my name is Brant Stachel. I've coached over 150 Boston qualifiers, helped over 25 athletes represent Canada internationally. And on my channel, I just try to share unfiltered, no fluff running and training advice. And so today, I don't even have an idea really, or a breakdown of what I want to talk to. I'm just going to talk through it a little bit because it's something that I'm talking with athletes constantly, and I'm seeing kind of in the content, in the comments, there's some good discussion about it. And so when we think about your easy days, and I did a video on this, but we want to think of the purpose of it, right? And so the main purpose of easy days is just to accumulate aerobic volume. That's essentially what we're doing. Accumulate time on feet. The biggest mistake I see, and what holds a lot of people back, is that they end up over fatigued, too sore, beat up from cranking their easy runs. And then they go into their workouts and they can't perform to the level they want. So then they have like a bomb workout, and then they like maybe take a day off, or they drop their volume, and then they have a good workout, and then they get stuck in this cycle where they're really frustrated that things aren't going well. The biggest thing I find, if you look at the pro level and you look at like the age group level, is most of the pros run, some of them even slower than you do on their easy days. I've talked about this in the channel when we did the Knob series as he was prepping for the marathon project, that he was running most of his easy days around 5-minute Ks or 8-minute miles. And yet he was going and running closer to 5-minute miles, or, 3 10Ks, give or take, for the marathon. So he was like almost 2 minutes a mile, or sorry, 3 minutes a mile slower than his marathon pace. And he was still getting benefit out of that. Now, mind you, he was accumulating a lot of volume, of course. When athletes run their easy days too hard, they actually mess up the workouts that they're trying to do. And so I'll give you another example. I work with 2 pretty high level high rocks athletes. With one of them, we actually slowed her easy days down. We slowed her workouts down, and she's starting to perform better again after going through a rut. Even just like those little changes. We didn't do anything on the strength side. I don't coach her strength. I don't do any of that. But just those changes have helped bring her back to life. I wanted to try and think about the psychology or the why of this, because there was a comment on one of the videos the other day. It was like, yeah, but if somebody only has 2 or 3 days a week to run, then they can maximize their training out of running harder. And I was like, I can see that logic. It's like, this idea, we got to maximize every minute that we have to exercise. And we instantly think about that as being harder, faster. That's what's going to get me closer. And like, I understand how we get there. But the problem becomes that if all you're doing is fast stuff, you're just kind of working on the ceiling, and then you maximize that so you feel like you're accomplishing stuff, but then you never bring the floor up to like build another ceiling. It's kind of like scaffolding, and not the idea of scaffolding, like the physical scaffolding, right? Like, you can only work at the top for so long, but you have to make that top your new floor by adding another level. And that's what easy running really allows you to do. You can't accumulate a lot of easy running if you're running them too hard. So then what happens is we start to think, well, easy running's hard, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything from it. I don't get the bang for the buck that I do workouts, and I get all this great feeling from workouts and this great feedback from the data saying I'm fast. And so you get this psychological boost that I'm doing something. And I think we even see this a little bit in the conversation that seemed to happen in the tail end of 2025, where it was like HIIT training versus zone 2 training. It was like, well, obviously the answer is both, but without having a wholesome base from the aerobic zone 2, zone whatever language you want to use, it becomes harder to actually maximize the work that you're doing. If you talk to athletes when they've just started training consistently with a little bit higher volume, they start to go, I actually just feel invincible. I was just talking to an athlete who's racing right now, literally at Trials of Miles 13.1 up in upstate New York, and we upped his volume in this build, and he had this really big workout last week, 5K pace, and he went to the track and he was like, I was hitting numbers that like I wasn't sure I could hit just off feel, and it was like nothing affected me. And it was like, great, now you're maximizing that hard work because you've got the base work. And so they go hand in hand. But I think truly, if you're going to be successful at the harder stuff, you need to be successful at the easy stuff first. And I think that's where we miss a lot of it, is we want that psychology of done something, I'm feeling good, things are great, I'm getting good feedback, I'm getting kudos on stuff. Like, I've been in that trap. I did it with swimming, I did it with cycling. When I was getting into triathlon, I was like, I want to show these big numbers and such. And then I was burnt out, I was injured, I wasn't making it to race start lines. Oftentimes you can do that and you get this like great performance boost, performance curve for like 6 to 10 weeks. And then all of a sudden you plateau and you're like, well, I don't know where to go. And you can only add so much intensity before you get musculoskeletal breakdown, endocrine system breakdown, etc. Whereas you can add a lot more volume on the easy side. The other piece is more injuries come from higher intensity training than they do lower intensity training. Now, obvious caveat, if you ramp up, even if it's low intensity too quickly, you will get injured. But most athletes get injured from the faster stuff not the shorter stuff. There's higher ground reaction forces. The musculoskeletal system doesn't tolerate the load as much. There's more muscle tone, therefore there's more tightness, which leads to some of the, chronic things we get as runners: Achilles, plantar, IT band, tib post, etc. When you look at that like bang for your buck type idea that we have when we're like, if I only got an hour, I got to go hard. I see it and I understand it in the moment of like what that 60 minutes means. Let's say you've got an hour. But when we zoom out and look at what the actual goal of training is to perform better, you're actually not getting the most bang for your buck. And in fact, you might be decreasing the ability to get some of those 2-3 runs that you get the next week because you're injured or out of it. The other thing is it becomes really hard to do hard stuff all the time. And you see this in swimmers in particular. That's why there's a very high burnout rate in youth swimmers, because it's so much more intensity because they don't have the ground reaction forces. There's no impact, so they can go hard a lot more often. And I think you're starting to see some of the swimmers do a little bit more of a polarized type thing where they are doing different zones more so than we used to in swimming. Side note, sorry. But when you look at it from the idea, and this is what I always try to look at, is like, even if it's a new runner, I want to keep them in the sport as long as possible. Not because it makes me more money as a coach, but rather because there's so many great things that come from the sport being in it for a long time. Friendships, relationships, the changes that it does for your health and your community. If you're a parent, your kids seeing that. And so we have to be able to zoom out and go, okay, what's great for me in the long and medium? Because that's also what's going to be great in the short term. It's going to allow you to enjoy more running. It's going to allow you to find the ability to access a little bit more training time as well too. Because if you're getting good feedback, it feels like, oh yeah, I could just go out for 30 minutes, super easy. It's not going to exhaust me and do this. Versus if your only experience or idea with running is I've got an hour and I've got to maximize it as hard as I go. Well, the idea of adding in another hour or a half hour hard is like, it's really hard to comprehend and add in. When you talk to athletes who have kind of made that switch, so they've slowed down their volume. I've got a handful of women right now in the 3 to 3:30 range for the marathon, who the first thing we did is we started slowing down, and they're like, oh, my weeks feel better. My workouts feel better. Like everything's good. I just ran the most mileage I've ever run and it felt easy. It was like, yeah, like we made it easier and slowed down. I want to be clear. That might just be 15, 20 seconds a mile. So you're not really losing that much volume. But all of a sudden that 60 minutes, you're like, oh, I could go 70 minutes, no problem. You do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. We add 10 minutes. That's a whole extra run. And now all of a sudden the total minutes you've accumulated in a week are actually higher. And then you do that for like 10 weeks and you have better workouts across those 10 weeks because you're more consistent. You're not having these ups and downs as you go. And all of a sudden you go into a new block or a new build or a race with this like super high confidence, like this idea I talked about with my athlete who's racing right now as I'm filming, where I feel more invincible. Like I feel like I know how to pace. I feel like even when it hurts, I can keep going and hold on longer. That's one of the differences we see when you watch elites race. Like you can see them racing, whether it's a marathon, a half, a 5, whatever. And it looks like they can just hang on for so much longer and then pick it up. And that ability to pick it up and hang on is because of that volume. I remember when I was junior coaching at the high school and collegiate level, there was always this idea amongst some of the high school coaches and other club coaches that you needed to work on somebody's finishing speed. And I was like, I get it. Like, because when we watch a race, right, it's like the person with the fastest sprint wins if it's a sprint finish. And it's like, okay, got it. That makes sense. But why are we working on that with the people who are 10 minutes back in a marathon, let's say, or 30 seconds back in a mile or a 15? It's like, that's not their problem. I could be faster than you over 100 meters, but if I'm 20 seconds back from you, it doesn't actually matter because I'm not up there to actually, get it. It's where I came up with this idea where it's like, speed matters. Yes, absolutely. But it's not the biggest deterministic factor of success. And so if we extend that argument, I do this in my clinical practice all the time, we extend the argument out to the absurd to see if that idea holds credibility. It's like, well, then Usain Bolt should be the fastest marathoner because he has the fastest speed or the fastest miler or whatever it is. Obviously, you look at that, you're like, there's no way Usain Bolt's going to be the fastest marathoner or 3K or 5K or miler. Yes, speed is a component, but I think we overrate it. And I want to be clear. I'm not trying to sit here and say like, oh, we only got to do zone 2 or you only got to do intensity. I hope this has come through in all my videos and I want to state it clearly here, is we need everything. We need every piece of training. We need to be training, hopefully, if you're healthy and running a decent amount, we're training every single type of running every 10 to 14 days. If we're doing that, you're getting all the pieces. I hate this idea of like, zone 2 versus high intensity, especially in 2025 when there was like scientists talking about it and then coaches talking about it. I think we're all kind of missing the point here. If you're building a puzzle, I want to have all the pieces, because if I don't have all the pieces, I can't make a complete puzzle. And that's the way we have to think about training, is we've got this gap, which is where we are and where we want to perform. And then we perform a gap analysis. What are the gaps that the athlete has? For most people, it's going to be on the aerobic side because they don't have lots of years of competing. They don't have lots of years of training. So we want to close that piece. And that doesn't mean that we ignore tempo running, intervals, speed work, whatever you want to call it, zone 4, zone 5, whatever language. It means that we have to put them in the proportions that make the athlete close the gap as much as possible. And I think for most athletes, the thing that's holding them back from being able to close that gap is going too fast on their easy days. Whether you measure it through heart rate, zones, stride, Daniels pacing, whatever it is, I would encourage you to slow down, ease up, and actually let your body absorb the training. We want to zoom out and think about, okay, how many weeks can I consistently do this? I used to talk to the high schoolers when I coached them. Some of them were really intense. And I'd say, for you to make Canadian national team, like a serious one, like an adult team, you're in grade 10 right now. You need 2 more years of high school. You probably need 4 years of university. So that's 6 years. And then probably 2 to 3 more after that. So we're looking at 8 to 10 years to keep that intensity. And when we think about it that way, it's like, cool, I got to zoom out. My habits, my structure has to be sustainable for that long. And I think for most of us, that's what we need to zoom out. Your first marathon, your second marathon should not be your best. We want to zoom out and keep going and go, how many years can I do this? How much can I sustain? Because that's when you'll truly start to see the results. And in order to do that, for most people, it's slowing down their easy days. Hopefully you like that. This was a little bit more off the cuff. If you've liked it, I'd love to hear it. I appreciate all the comments. I try to engage as much as possible. If you could subscribe, if you like it, that would be great because that helps send signals about what videos are good and what topics are great. Thanks for listening and happy training.